Hey there, welcome back to my channel. It is Drew here from Lone Fox, and I am just in such a good mood today, you guys. I woke up, I finished my wall decor projects, and I'm just feeling so good about each and every one of them in today's video. Probably saw by the title, we are going to be focusing on wall decor today, and I've actually done 2 of these videos in the past, both of each which have 5 wall decor projects in them, and I'll put them in a card up here somewhere at the top. That way, in case you guys want more ideas or more DIY projects, you can go ahead and watch those videos as well. And the thing about each of these is I love how each project uses a different technique. We're doing some spackling, we're doing some painting, some sewing, even a little bit of woodworking, if you will. I think wall decor is crucial for any space. It's a great way to add color, texture, pattern, visual interest, whatever it might be. Every space needs a little bit of wall decor. So let's go ahead and dive on into these DIY projects. So let's get started. Jumping on into our first project here, I'm gonna start off with a couple of embroidery hoops. I'm using a 7-inch and a 10-inch embroidery hoop here, and the next step is going to be to take your larger hoop and cut it in half. So I just used a ruler to find the center point. Once I had the ruler, I just used this saw from the dollar store, and I went ahead and cut it in half. Basically, you're gonna have 2 half pieces like this, and you're only gonna need one of them, so you could save the other for a project in the future. Now, as you can see, I'm laying it out as shown here, and this is going to be the shape of our wall hanging. But of course, we're gonna need a little bit of wood to connect these pieces together. So in the wood section at Joann's, I went ahead and I found this wooden dowel that really resembled the same wood of the embroidery hoop, same width, same thickness. I cut it down to size and went ahead and sanded all of the edges. That way we can go ahead and hot glue this together to create the base structure for our piece. I used just a simple dot of Gorilla Hot glue on all of the wooden dowel edges and connected the pieces together to create the structure for our wall decor piece. Now, I love the way that this turned out. I think it looks great, but let's go ahead and move on to the tassel portion. So I grabbed this cream colored yarn and I measured out 9 inches, and then I went ahead and kind of wound it back and forth until I had 10 pieces. I'm personally using 10 pieces of yarn per tassel, fold it in half, and then pull the ends through that folded loop, just like shown here, to create a simple tassel on the bottom half of your wall hanging. Now I'm going to create tassels across the whole entire bottom half underneath those dowels that we glued on, making sure that I do 9-inch sections and I do 10 strands of each for a cohesive and consistent look. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue this process along. Just adding the finishing touch to those tassels there, I added a little bit of yarn at the top to hang it, and I strung on a couple of wooden beads from my stash to just add a little bit more detail and dimension, and that finishes off this wall decor. For project number 2, we are starting off with a simple poster board. This is just a poster board you would use in a school project, but I'm going to use it as the base for our wall decor. So I just cut out a piece from this poster board that was 12 by 19 because I had a particular frame I wanted to go for, but of course you can cut out whatever size you would like, and I taped it down to my surface. I just find this makes painting so much more simple. And next what I did was I got a couple of these rolls of washi tape at Michael's, and these rolls I made sure were pretty thin because I'm going to be masking off a ton of different lines to kind of create a very linear abstract piece of artwork that also has like an ombre effect to it. So as you can see here, I'm using this green washi tape on the left side here. I already went ahead and mapped out a couple of just random triangles, but basically this project is a whole bunch of masking with tape, and then we're going to go through and paint over the top, remove the tape after to reveal our design. So I'm using a thin gold one up at the top here to create more chunky sections, and do keep in mind wherever the tape is not covering is where your paint is going to go. So next what I did was I grabbed this paint here. This is a dark kind of rusty orange color, and I'm using just this color along with some white to create a variety of shades. So I'm using some white and mixing it up with that rust to create a kind of more peachy tone, then more of a terracotta tone, and then we're also going to of course use the base red color itself as well. But in each triangle section, I'm going through and using some of that paint that we diluted down with the white, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint it on there. So each shade is just a little bit different. It varies slightly lightly, and once you remove all of that tape, you can really see kind of that ombre effect that it creates, which I think is really cute, and this is a great project for you to customize and do whatever color palette you would like. So let's say you wanted a little bit more yellow in your living room, you can totally create this piece with some yellow paint and add that pop of yellow. Now, when you go back, once it is fully dry, I'm going in and removing the tape, and of course this is the most satisfying part, but do keep in mind to take it pretty slow because sometimes with poster board, it's not the most durable paper, and you can get some areas that do peel up just a little bit where the paper kind of comes off. But what I did was I just went back and made sure not to wash my original paint colors that I created, so I can go in and just use a fine detail brush to just clean up any lines there, remove the tape on the outside edge, and that finishes off this wall decor piece. I think it turned out really cute, and if you have to touch up anything, you can totally do so. I love the tone-on-tone texture this creates. Now, I have been dying to sew on a canvas since I saw it on TikTok a while back, so I started off by grabbing this small canvas, creating a half circle shape with a roll of tape on the bottom there, and from there I am using my ruler to create some rays from our half circle shape to all in all create a sun shape. So I'm just using a pencil, that way it's easily erasable because we are going to go back and erase all of these lines. We're just wanting to create a guide to start, so I am going through adding some rays off of our half circle to create what's going to be our sun shape. But of course, you can embroider whatever you would like on your canvas, going through touching up any sections there and using my needle to pre-poke some of the holes here. And why I'm doing this is it just makes it a little bit easier when you're actually sewing. You don't have to kind of think about it. The holes are already done for you, so you know where you're going next. And I just went ahead, I poked all of the holes I wanted to do for the rays, and I did actually go through after doing the tops and bottoms and just did a couple of holes throughout to create a couple of breaks in the rays, which I think just adds a bit of interest. So as you see here on the right side, I'm going through, I'm erasing just a couple sections at a time, and I'm starting off with my orange color here. Now I'm using 3 different shades of embroidery floss, an orange, a pink, and a yellow. So I knew that every third section I wanted my orange to go through. I was just gonna do a pattern for simplicity. So I went ahead, I did my first row of orange there at the bottom. I then skipped 2 holes. This is why I pre-poked my holes, and I did my third with the orange again. And as you can tell, some of the lines are not full on lines, and that's what I meant by the broken sections and creating a couple of holes in the middle. I just think this adds a nice pop of detail, and it just makes it look a little bit more interesting. You can totally make the rays full on lines if you want to and do no breaks in the centers, but I loved the break sections. So I went ahead, I did my orange first, then we're moving on to pink next, and the process from here is pretty repetitive. So I just went through with my pink, and then lastly, of course, I'm gonna do my yellow next. And of course, we had to go through and fill in our little yellow section at the bottom there. So all I did was I grabbed some yellow embroidery floss, and I'm doing a series of parallel yellow lines just to fill in this half circle. So as I work my way up, the lines are gonna get smaller and they're gonna cascade into our half circle shape. But I just thought this was the easiest method for me to fill this in, and I probably spaced them out just about 1/8 of an inch just to make this section seem really full, but also just appear as stitching as well, which I think looks really nice in the end. So just stitching up that section there. And lastly, if you do want a nice clean backing, which is totally optional, if you're gonna hang this on the wall, no one's gonna of course see this, but I just didn't really like the way that it looks, so I had this scrap piece of canvas in my stash. I cut it out to fit the interior of the backside and used a little bit of fabric glue to just adhere that down to the backside of the canvas, and that finishes off your sewn wall decor. I think this looks super cute and would look great in a little girl's room or a boho themed space. I think think this next project is probably my favorite in the video, or one of my favorites. As you can see, I'm starting off with a wreath ring from the dollar store and a 10-inch mirror from the craft store. This is just a craft mirror. I'm using some memory wire cutters to go through and snip my ring. That way I only have 2 of the interior ring sections. So as you can see here, I just want those 2 sections there. These are going to fit perfectly on the underside of our mirror. And I also grabbed this raffia material, which you could find at Michael's in the floral section. I'm actually going to cut these down to 8-inch sections. So I just grabbed my ruler there, measured out 8 inches in length, and I cut them all at once because you're going to need quite a few pieces of this raffia material. So all you're going to do for this next process, this is again a very repetitive but kind of soothing process. You're going to grab 3 to 4, 5, 6, even 7 pieces of your raffia, fold it in half, and just create a lark's head knot on the outside by folding it in half and pulling your tails through that loop that you created as shown here. Now do keep in mind the entire ring or underside base is going to be hidden underneath your mirror, so it doesn't need to look perfect, but you are going to want your tassels to be pretty symmetrical. So I'm just going to repeat the process all the way around. I actually created a mirror pretty similar to this a while back with some macrame cording, and you guys really loved it, and I had so many of you recreate it. So if you recreate this one, I would love to see it, but I'm just going to continue the process on the outside ring here. So of course, I couldn't just stop here. I also wanted to add a second section onto that interior ring. So for the next section, I actually cut these pieces to 7 inches, so just an inch shorter than the last. That way they kind of just cascaded over the top and created a little bit of a layered look. So I'm doing the same exact technique just on the interior ring, making sure that the pieces lay right on top of our first section. Once you are done, it's gonna look something like this, which is a perfect base for our mirror. I'm going through with some industrial strength Gorilla hot glue sticks, which I'll link below for you guys. I use these in all of my projects. They just make everything stick really nicely, and I'm placing my mirror right on top of the base that we created. But I really was not a huge fan of how the mirror was just sitting on top of the raffia, so I grabbed some wooden beads and I just went ahead and I strung them on a strand here. There were 3 different sizes in this pack, so I started off with the largest size first, and I'm going to be stringing them on our string. That way we can create a little bit of a border for the mirror and hide that raw edge. Once you have your beads all strung up, I did go ahead and glue them to the exterior of the mirror. That way it kind of conceals that raw edge. It just makes it look so much nicer and like there's an actual frame on the mirror. So I glued these down, went all the way around the exterior of the mirror, and once I reached my starting point, I did tie it off with the ending point. That way it was just a full-on circle frame, but I thought adding just 1 more strand of beads would look really cute, so I went in with our medium size and strung them up just like I did the first section and just glued them right next to our larger ones on the interior of the mirror. And that finishes off our mirror, you guys. It turned out so cute in the end, and I cannot believe this project only cost around $15 to create. I can totally see this for like $40, $50, $60 online. And for our last project, I'm starting off with this chalkboard. It was a perfect base. I found this at Michael's, only $9. You could totally use a coupon as well, but I was originally going to create my own kind of base for this project, but it was going to end up costing more. So I was like, let's make this a little bit more cost and time effective and purchase this chalkboard. Now, as you can see here, I actually went through and painted the chalk portion of it with white paint. Totally not necessary. It literally peeled off as I was working with it, so I don't even suggest painting it with white paint. You can totally just start with it from this section right about here. So let's just pretend that this is where we started. I'm using a little bit of this Alex Plus spackling, which is just from Lowe's. It's like $6 for the entire tub. And you're gonna wanna go through and actually apply a generous amount of the spackling on the entire board here. This is where I also think that it might be nice to have the blackboard showing so you can kind of see if you have spackling in all of the sections. I just figured a white base would be nice in case I didn't have the spackling, but I did go through in the end and paint everything anyways, so just, you know, don't even worry about it. I'm just going through and spreading an even amount of spackling across. It's almost like you're frosting a cake, but we're just creating a thick layer of this. That way we can go back and create a design in it once we have our layer down. So I'm also going through and just smoothing it out a little bit just to give it a bit more of a solid kind of clean base to start with. And once you have that all down, I'm using a trowel. This is a grout trowel that you would use for originally like putting down grout. You can get this at the hardware store for a couple of dollars. And I'm just going through and creating a rainbow shape and pressing it into our grout here. Now there are a couple sections I had to lift it up. It was kind of peeling a little bit, and that was actually because of the paint layer that I applied first. It was peeling off of the chalkboard, so I just suggest going right in with your spackle and don't even paint it to start. Now originally I was just going to keep the one rainbow shape in the center, but it just looked too symmetrical to me and I wanted it to be a little bit more random and abstract, so I created a half rainbow shape on the right side there, just to kind of, you know, throw it off a little bit, not make it super symmetrical and even. I smoothed out any sections I didn't like and removed any of the spackling from our frame there. So you're going to let this dry fully overnight, and once it is dry you can go back through and fully paint all of your spackling. This is going to create a nice clean finish. I used a kind of warm white tone. I believe it's literally called Warm White by Folk Art, and it really just has like a slight cream tone to it. So I went through, I gave 2 generous coats of this on all of the spackle, making sure to avoid the frame, of course. And then once you're done, you can let this dry and hang it up. It's a very kind of tone-on-tone textural art piece, which is really fun. And you've made it all the way through those wall decor projects, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. It was so much fun. I had such a blast creating these projects over the past 2 days, and I hope that you guys can gain some inspiration or maybe take one of these projects, tweak it a little bit to your own personal style, copy it if you want to, whatever you guys would like to do. I would love to see some of your guys' recreations. So if you do create any of these wall decor projects, totally tag me over on Instagram and make sure to follow along. It is Lone Fox Home. I'll put it on the screen for you guys, and do not also forget to subscribe to my channel. It's 100% free, and I post really fun DIY and home decor content every single week here on Lone Fox, and you will be part of the Lone Fox family. Who does not want to be part of the Lone Fox family? I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope these projects were inspiring. I love you all so much, and I will catch you guys in my next one. Do not forget to also check out my kitchen makeover, which went up last week. Such a fun video. Still obsessed with the kitchen space, and yeah, I will see you in my next one. I don't even want to, I'm like trying to think of other things to say because I don't want to put the camera down. I feel like I haven't filmed in a while. I love you guys. I'll just see you in the next one. Bye!